the hackers all think like, okay, it was healthcare. Healthcare has been a big target, and now it's casinos. So they're just going to go down the list, and they're going to get to real estate eventually. Disasters happen. My name is Josh Berkowitz, and this is Crestview at the Cave podcast. This podcast is designed to help you master the insurance claims process. Join us for our next guest. Well, thank you very much for anyone who's joining us live. This is an experiment, and we hope to continue to do this. Welcome to Crestview at the Cave podcast. Today we have an awesome guest, Frank Angiolelli, the founder and member director of mSOC, which provides world-class outsourced security operations, SOC consulting, threat hunting, and emergency digital forensics and incident response. By trade, he is a cybersecurity professional considered an industry thought leader in the world in cybersecurity operations, threat intelligence, and threat hunting. With over 2 decades of cybersecurity experience and deep experience in the malicious anomalies, he has worked for some of the largest financial and government entities and presented original content in security and research for some of the top industry and government forums. So that was a really long, introduction. Thank you very much for coming today to sit down.
Appreciate that. Thanks for that intro.
Another special guest here, we have Marc Karpel, who works with the Crestview team. So Marc has been spending a lot of time over the past 2 years with myself of just getting more educated in the cybersecurity, cyber insurance world. So, it's really awesome to collaborate together to come sit down and help educate everyone out there on what you do, what we do, and what's going on with the hot topics, today.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys. We had some initial discussions, which were just absolutely fascinating to a guy like me to understand more about your industry. I certainly have a lot to learn there. And, I think this will be an excellent conversation. Looking forward to it.
Likewise, looking forward.
So let's get right into it. I think most of our viewers, probably people who are on LinkedIn following myself and Marc, and probably don't even know what a SOC is, right? So I thought maybe just help us, dumb it down to everyone what you do and why it's so important today.
Absolutely. So security operations is a practice of receiving logs throughout an organization and detecting when an adversary is attacking you, and then executing an incident response strategy, plan, or tactic. At the end of the day, the goal is to stop an adversary who's actively trying to deceive you that they even are there. Basically, we're trying to protect an organization from the digital attacks or prevent those digital attacks from actually causing large-scale damage.
And just have to ask this question. So this week, everyone read about the MGM hack. There's also Clorox hack this week. And do those large corporations have a SOC that they're engaged with?
Most larger corporations have security operations in place. They have security monitoring in place. They have incident response in place. And it's part of a good practice for an organization to have all these elements of a cybersecurity program. They can all operate at different levels and different capabilities. Each organization has different pain points and issues and challenges. That's natural. But we're also seeing the sophistication of some of the adversaries that are out there. And ultimately, one of the biggest challenges is, as defenders, we need to be right 100% of the time. And the adversary really only needs to be correct once.
Right.
So it's not an easy. At the end of the day, the way I like to describe this is, my adversary is sentient. Okay. We had discussed a little bit about some analogies, and it's almost like driving a car, and you have a temperature gauge that lights up when the car gets hot. But in this scenario, the car is actively trying to deceive you.
Right.
And you still have to find that the temperature has gotten too hot, and you have to do something about it. It's kind of like that.
How long have you been doing this now?
I've been doing this type of work since before they even called it this type of work.
Right.
If I had to take a guess, it would probably be around 2000 or so. I started specializing in security, and that was because by curiosity and whatever skill that I've got, I was finding adversaries in networks.
Sure.
Way back, we were talking like 2000. This is before any tools exist. And we were talking about being a blue team hacker, right?
Right.
To do that type of work back then, there were much less tools. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've seen a lot of trends, shifts, and a lot of challenges, which, part of what I'm so thankful about this platform is I'm hoping to share some of that with the community, with the public.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, Crestview, for those that I'd love to share this with in my community, can you tell me about your company and what your role is, what you do?
It's a great question. Happy you asked that. So we specialize in representing policyholders and first-party claims against insurance companies. My background is in real estate. Mark also has a background in real estate, so mostly has been commercial clients and residential clients. But about 3 years ago, started doing some research through conversations, and realizing that cyber insurance is something that we could also represent the policyholder on. It's a first-party claim if you have the insurance against your insurance company. And as a public insurance adjuster, our goal is to manage a claim and also maximize the recovery for the policyholder. So when you're looking at it, to make a comparison, when you have a property damage, you have a large fire, we want to make sure the insurance company is going to pay our policyholder to indemnify, to put them back to pre-loss condition. So converting that same methodology, what we use for the property damage, and have perfected that system, take that to cyber insurance, where it's a whole new world and a lot of ambiguous, information in the policies. It's not as policy for a cyber insurance policy is not as, detailed and well written as the property damage claim at the property policy. So therefore, there's a lot of more ambiguity what is available to the policyholder. So therefore, when we're involved in a loss, we're helping navigate to make sure the policyholder knows what's available to them. So, and there's so many different coverages that are involved in a cyber breach. So we're able to quarterback them, bring in experts like yourself, bring in experts like forensic accountants to make sure and quantify the loss and help quarterback that whole claim.
So you, if I understood this right, you like read through the policy.
Yeah.
You work on behalf of a company, speaking to the insurance to help the company maximize what they're getting from the claim. I mean, that's a complex, to me,
Yep.
not knowing really much about the insurance industry, and the details of what you do, that feels complex to me. And I know I would certainly love to be able to just hand you a piece of paper and be like, read this and help me. And I feel like that would be pretty comforting. I didn't even know your role existed for a long time.
Generally, what happens is someone calls us up. We obviously ask them what happened. And we'll first establish, the actual cyber event that took place. Was it a data breach? Was it ransomware? And once we've established what's been going on, you figure out the other losses that have taken place. If you have a data breach where someone's stealing your personal information and they're throwing it all over the internet now, and it's false information, it's this, that, the other thing, there's coverage for reputational loss. And now people are defaming your character. So it's every situation is unique. We take each case, case by case, and we assess what the initial peril, the cause of loss really is here. And then once you've established that, we understand the type of coverage that, the policy's allotting, and whatever items fall under that category that the insured's entitled to make everyone good again.
And just to that point, the insurance companies right now, and we've built some experts, like relationships with people like yourself and other ex-law enforcement guys that have been, working in cyber that are on our team, that are also consultants for insurance companies. So they really know how to prepare the claim to insurance, and those are people that we've kind of called like our cyber ops team. Insurance companies have no idea how to handle this stuff right now. We're probably now getting more calls for cyber insurance, probably at least a couple a month right now. Can't always help them because maybe they don't have the right coverage, but we're seeing a lot more, calls to us or for help. But insurance companies have no idea how to handle this. So really, we're able to help quarterback them, navigate the client.
And to clarify, the need for us to bring on these cybersecurity experts is that the claims process when it comes to cybersecurity losses has not really been defined just yet. It's
Claims process.
Claims process has not
really been defined yet.
Because the reality.
Why don't we
is,
break that down?
Yeah.
So dumb it down. So if you have a property damage claim, there are certain statutes in certain states. For example, in New York, if the insurance company sends you like a document to sign, it's called a proof of loss. Once you sign that, the insurance company has to send you money within 30 days. It's in the policy. there are things in the cyber policies. It's not written out to that detail of like, this is what's going to happen. So we have claims. We had one claim we handled successfully. It was a telecommunications company. They gave us a call about a year and a half after their breach. Nothing happened.
So a year and a half after the breach. What was going on in the year and a half? Were they responding, or were they trying to work with their insurance company?
So they had absolutely no idea how to handle it.
Yeah.
When it comes to any insurance claim, the burden of proof is on the insured. So what happened was the insured opens up this claim, their cybersecurity claim, and they thought that the insurance company was going to take the bull by the horns and process this claim.
Okay.
They sat there and did absolutely nothing. And the insured was getting a bit frustrated and really upset, and they started writing nasty letters, having nasty conversations with the insurance company. And this was going on for months. So now there's this rift, and eventually they finally got some traction, and all of a sudden the insurance company sends them a laundry list of items that all of a sudden that they need. This is 9 months after the loss.
8 months. And during this whole time frame, they had the insurance.
Nothing was happening.
But they weren't receiving any of the benefits yet until this whole thing was navigated.
They had not put forth an actual claim. They needed a forensic accountant to really dig through the numbers and really figure out exactly, numbers that were lost here. They sat on it. They didn't do anything with it. They didn't know they needed to.
So the forensic accountant in that scenario was part of defining quantifying what the loss was.
Correct.
Which was important for the insured to do in order to execute and actually deliver the actual claim.
Yeah, it's because as part of the as part of the claim, you have it's called like business loss recovery. So you have coverage for that, but you have to support it. So
you have to support it.
If you don't support it with financials,
that's why guys like yourselves come into play, because you guys build software that can detect any sort of intrusion into a network.
Right.
It can stop it, and it can put a plan in place, and then it creates a whole report of actually what happened. And when it comes to having to prove this cyber event that took place, this is where Frank Angiolelli and mSOC come into play, because it's your software that's going to help establish this whole claim against the insurance company.
Yeah, and so when we talk about our software, it's a little bit more than just software. It's sort of collecting forensic evidence and following a breadcrumb. And it depends on how much the company actually prepares in advance,
Right.
how hard it is to find the breadcrumbs. Sometimes we work with companies that have a lot of tools in place already, and then we come in, it's easy to quickly collect and report on that timeline, on that issue. What you're really talking about is a forensic timeline. What happened? When did it start? When did it end? What did they access, so that you can quantify those losses, discuss it with, the forensic accountant, adjusters, and go to the insurance company. And so in cases where it's not, that's where, being a blue team, which is a defender team, like hacker, comes in, because you have to build all of this.
Sorry, I have to dumb this down for myself.
Go ahead.
Sure, other people. Blue team hacker means
It's so like a lot of people think of hackers as attackers, but hacking also includes using things in unusual ways, putting them together in different ways, thinking outside the box. When you're dealing with a cybersecurity breach, you see, it doesn't actually matter if the client that we're working with has all the tools that need to be in place. We need to get them there. There's an adversary inside of the network. You need to find them and kick them out. It's quite a challenge. And so thinking outside the box, being able to write software on the fly, being able to make tools work in different ways, that's part of it. It wouldn't be very valuable if we walked in and said, oh, well, you don't have the right tools, so call me when you get it. Like, that's not helping anybody.
Right. So I know I was talking before, listening to some of your previous podcasts and interviews. You also worked in emergency services?
I did,
so
yeah.
How does that connect with I'm sure there's a connection, right?
Yeah, there really was. So I definitely was involved in computers, and I just naturally gravitated toward forensics. But I'm also, 10 years of volunteer fireman.
Sure.
6 years in EMT, retired ambulance captain. Wrote on 1,000 ambulance calls and do things like mass casualty pre-plans. Well, when I got my first position really working in corporate in this, in kind of a leadership position, I brought in the incident command system from emergency services. I'm like, this is exactly the same thing. Well, if you take information security and emergency services, you make a sandwich.
Right.
It tastes like incident response, right?
point.
Yeah. So everywhere I went, they were like, "You're in charge of incident response." Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you get excited? I mean, so might sound weird. Is it exciting when there's like a breach? Like, okay, great, now let's get this guy out. Our teams go to work, or you don't want that to ever happen?
I mean, I would definitely prefer if it ever happens. I mean, our objective, certainly with our services, is to block, frustrate, and respond quickly to adversaries. There's nothing more satisfying than knowing that somebody is attempting to attack the systems and you've severed their access and you're frustrating them. And so, at the end of the day, all of these things align up to just delivery of what a client needs. It's a highly technical subject.
Sure.
It's difficult to wrap your arms around. It's very deep, but it's very satisfying. Is it exciting? It's exciting in the way that like a firefighter would be rescuing somebody trapped on a 4th floor in an apartment building.
Like coming out.
You're getting you're going to get some measure of a rush, but it's because someone else is in danger, and the goal is to respond and save that. Like that's that natural alignment. And everybody that works in my organization is just naturally like they all understand this is what we're doing.
Right.
So I was thinking this last night, and a lot of our clients are real estate holders, right? So we have people who have own one building, or people own hundreds of buildings, right? People developing buildings, and there's a lot of finances involved in their corporation, right? They're receiving rents, paying other vendors. Is it important for companies like that to potentially explore like an mSOC situation for themselves?
Yeah, well, I think that we're.
I doubt it. I could think that no one's thinking about this, but thinking to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Because another thing to add is we were talking, the hackers all think like, okay, it was healthcare. Healthcare has been a big target, and now it's casinos. So they're just going to go down the list, and they're going to get to real estate eventually.
I think the real bigger question here is how vulnerable is society? Forget just real estate companies. Everyone in general. Everyone is susceptible to what's happening here, and it seems as though it
may seem that way, and partially because we're seeing in public, real public view of the companies that have gotten hit. There are a large number of companies that haven't, and we don't hear about that. Is there vulnerability? Yeah, I think it's a pretty fair statement to say yes. And if we think about this over like a 20-year period, right? So the companies that are large now, maybe they are well protected or mostly well protected, but there's growing companies. And those growing companies are going to have to implement security before hopefully they become a target. And then there's smaller companies that may think, well, that could never happen to us. I can think of a very small company that experienced an $800,000 loss in one incident, and they were minutes from losing another 1.2 million.
Right.
That can be devastating to a small business. So it's kind of a cost that I think, like insurance, needs to be baked in to a corporation,
Sure.
or an entity. Yeah.
Like they're paying for insurance, they also should pay for SOC.
Right.
How skillful are these people? These people, creating these cyber attacks.
So the adversaries I've faced throughout my career range from, what we would refer to as probably low-skilled, like just targets of opportunity, to organizations that have spent 3 months just to recon what the organization is prior to starting a very slow and small attack. Mm-hmm. It's extremely difficult to detect.
Right.
And so when you think about that investment from an adversary's perspective, they're spending time and money focused on your organization to map it out over a 3-month period.
Right.
They're going to know it pretty well.
Right.
Yeah. So there's different ranges. Now, protection has different levels too, right? There's an abstract concept, is it secure? Which I would translate in your industry to, is it insured?
Yeah.
Right. So you're looking at the policy and you're saying, well, it is insured, but not for this thing. I have the same dynamics in cybersecurity. Is it secure? Well, yes, but there are pieces here.
Right.
Yeah.
What would be the top 3 things you would recommend to any average Joe right now in the country to just bare minimum protection of your computer?
Bare minimum. Okay.
Computer, phone, I guess, and any sort of run, right? Let's hear it.
Yeah. So first, have multi-factor authentication on everything you've got.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Right. The second one is have an enterprise level anti-malware where you must enter a password in order to remove it.
Is Norton antivirus still something that you would recommend to?
Well, there's varying levels of protection, and we tend to say product agnostic in general. We can certainly talk about what we see effective in conversations, but if you have an antivirus and it is possible for the user to uninstall it, or possible to uninstall it by running a keyboard command that guys like me would run, the adversary can uninstall it.
Okay.
You have to have some blocker in between having it and uninstalling it. In a large number of these ransomware attacks, they simply disable the antivirus. They just turn it off.
That's fun.
Yeah, which is crazy. You're thinking to yourself,
Which doesn't make it sound effective.
I've got a good, it means it's ineffective. It's because they've beaten it and they've gotten onto the computer, like behind the screen, there's commands you can type in, and they're typing in those commands, and basically what they're writing is disable the antivirus, and the system goes, okay.
Right. So this is wild.
What's the third? I need to hear the third. So the second was antivirus. Third was what?
Well, the way I approach the third is that I always make sure I'm stocked with Bacardi and Coke. Look, at the end of the day, when we're doing incident response, there are emotional aspects to this. It's really concerning. It's stressful. It's painful. There's a lot of uncertainty, and so having fallback positions. Look, the way I like to train in my team and my guys and leaders I'm trying to foster is I say you want to have plan A, B, C, and D. And so, when you're running a business, a system can go down. Any point in time, anybody on my team call and say, system A is down. I go, okay, flip over to B.
Sure.
So having that capability. And so when we think about, for example, a ransomware attack, the big thing is being able to restore your data. And most people believe it's backups. I've dealt with a ransomware incident where they deleted the images, the files, the servers. They deleted the backups of the server, and they had sniffed the password to the online storage backup, logged into the online storage backup, and deleted those backups before ransoming. So in the industry, a slightly technical topic is that we like to say you have to have a backup and have it offline, meaning it's not connected to anything.
Right.
Yeah. We just were with someone last night at a dinner, and they said their company got hacked a couple of years ago, but they had someone physically recording everything on physical tapes.
Yeah.
So they didn't every week. So they were they had a breach.
You just restore.
But they had the backup.
So obviously a big part of why we're doing this is to educate folks on and help them, give them real concrete solutions. A few years ago, some derelict broke into my apartment in the Bronx, and I had the privilege of calling 911 because who else would you call? When someone's breaking into your cyber world, breaking into your emails, and stealing things from you, who are people supposed to call? What are people supposed to do?
That's a fantastic question. So in an ideal circumstance, an organization has either a security operations team in place like us that they call,
Right.
or they have what's called a retainer with an incident response firm. So they form a relationship with them and say, I'm going to call you if things go bad. Or at that point in time, what they tend to do if they haven't prepared for it is they'll call their friends in the industry and say, I'm having a real problem. Who do I call? And when you're in a high pressure scenario, that can be a little bit challenging. And so, more than once, I've gotten that phone call at 4 p.m. on Friday saying, hey, so-and-so's having a breach. Can you hop on a call? But I'll hop on that call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I've also hopped on that call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Right? It's So having that prepared, almost like we had talked about insurance, and I really want to hear your top three on that. But having a little bit of that preparation is good, but it's also difficult for folks to focus on.
Right.
We get that. So what are your top three things an organization could do to prepare for what they're going to encounter with your stuff?
So I think like the one, it's not if one of these organizations is going to get hacked. It's just a matter of time till they get them right. And that's a good question. I think the number one is, understand what your policy, understand what coverages are available to you, because we need to see that. It's the first thing we need to see to review, because people might think that they have coverage for ransomware. They might have coverage for reputational harm or business loss or other things that you might have covered for. But if we don't physically see it, it could not be there.
In order to even be considered for insurance, you need to have some sort of security on your networks. Even the two-step, process for authorization for passwords.
So now they're
having
making
the softwares that you can have the ability to create on your computer gives the insurance company, that comfortable feeling of, I'm happy to give this guy a policy, because if he gets attacked, he has something in place to, begin the mitigation process of, slowing down that attack, or
I think help educating people of like somebody to mitigate the risk, right? The most important thing you want to do when you have an event happen to your company is to mitigate and prevent further damage from happening. So to understand like who are the vendors, what could I do? So those are things that we could help people, like give them a list of vendors, right? These are the vendors you could call. That's what the insurance company does.
So these companies, they need to be creating protocols. We were just at the New York Public Adjusters Association conference, and what we learned was the Department of Financial Services for a long time has put on their website that all companies, I think with 10 plus employees, have to have some sort of cybersecurity insurance, which also means that they have to have some
protocols
in place in order to
to respond.
Correct. And right now, DFS they're going to begin enforcing this on companies. They're going to start penalizing you if you don't have these in place, and having a proper protocol. Who are my vendors? Who can assist me right now? Who's going to be there to? The police are not doing this for you. You can't call our government. You can go to the FBI's website and put forth a formal complaint, but that's just going to sit within the database of FBI until they act on it. So I think being prepared in terms of having, I think most importantly, just knowing the correct vendors to reach out to. People can just call us, even if you're not even there to make a claim. We have connected with so many different vendors that can help, clients out there. Even if you have a client of yours who's just trying to understand something in their policy, happy just to explain it to them, just to put them in the right direction so they, have an understanding of what's happening. Again, the adjusters on the insurance side of things don't know anything on technology. You need someone who understands the policy, who understands cybersecurity, and who can guide you through the process, because that's where we are right now. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Property losses today, someone can go speak directly with the insurance company, handle it on their own. Cybersecurity, it's a very, very specific process right now that requires people in the thick of things our business practices are helping to sculpt, the claims process. Our work is doing that right now.
And we're responding to audit requests from customers where they're saying, my insurance company is saying, this list of, first it was 5 questions. Then it was 7. And now I'm hearing some people say it's like, 350 questions. And so we help them articulate that to an insurance company, because it's important to be accurate in your statement to them.
Yes.
And the insurance companies appear to be increasing their specificity.
Yeah. So they're
saying you really have to have this cybersecurity stuff in place.
You need to have it in place, or we're not going to insure you.
Yeah, or
they don't want to have the risk of insurance. It's like someone, and I think it's very relevant to like a property. If a property is going to be insured and they have a 40-year-old roof, let's just say, insurance company is going to come to you. Most insurance companies will send you a letter saying, maybe 3 months after they bound the policy, say, listen, Frank, you need to replace your roof, or we're not going to insure your house anymore. So the same thing's happening with cyber, of saying you need to put all these things in place, or we can't give you insurance.
And I perceive from my chair that that's a consequence of all the hacks that are happening right now. The insurance companies have got to be paying out a lot of money.
They're losing their pants.
Yeah, they're losing their pants, and so they're realizing you can't just write this policy.
Right. I was just about to say that it used to be that, I forgot who was explaining this to me, before they actually were writing cybersecurity policies, actually in your home policy, and I forgot what the term was, but there actually was coverage for cybersecurity. Then eventually, they actually started writing cybersecurity policies, and the language was so vague that it left the insurance companies vulnerable to, heavy claims.
Yeah, to heavy claims.
But since then, the language has matured, and they've gotten more specific, and they're not leaving themselves open to.
I think it needs to, both in your industry and also in ours. So you had talked about sort of leading on this. So we do things that are like visibility assessments for an organization to help them identify blind spots before the attack comes, because that's where a lot of companies do get hit, is they have this blind spot, they don't know about it. And all of that is an evolving maturity right now.
And I think that's one thing to add to help educate, larger corporations or even smaller groups to do things like that, to consider looking into exploring of having someone just look at our whole system and see what's open to exposure. How could someone hack us, right? Because we want to be secure. So that's something that people should be more proactive about.
I mean,
we'll help them at the end of the day. You shouldn't wait until your insurance company sends you a list of 300 things. You should be
after the
proactive,
breach, right? While you're
people,
dealing with the breach, when you're dealing with a breach, one of the things a lot of companies don't realize is that whether or not they've gained access to all of that critical information, talk about, well, that's over here. Right. What about your payroll? So one of the enormous stressors that organizations deal with is if their payroll system goes down, or if all of their systems are just offline and they can't even cut the checks to their people. And I've seen situations where that has been a protracted time frame of, between 4 and sometimes 8 weeks to get back online. Are your people going to be able to go without payroll for 8 weeks?
Right.
Yeah. Now, we were chatting briefly, and I think that you had a story about a third-party company that was hosting email.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to finish. I thought it was a fascinating story. Can you talk a little bit about that situation?
Sure.
Yes, we've had a number of cyber claims we've worked on. I think that's something more recently, right? I think in California.
Yeah, there was a third-party company.
Okay.
Can I mention its name?
I wouldn't mention. Just keep it vague for now.
Third-party company that had a platform for companies to have their emails run through. That company got hacked, and the company that we're representing, they do private security. So 90% of the company's emails ran through this platform.
Okay, so just there, you have a company, they engage a third-party company to run all their email.
Correct.
And this third-party company got hacked.
Correct.
Okay, all right, got it.
So all their emails disappeared, and they themselves did not actually have anything backed up. The remaining 10% of the emails was with a few of the executives who were using Gmail accounts to communicate. So all those emails got lost. And within those emails, there were contracts with vendors. There was business to be had. And it's now all gone out into cyberspace.
It's all gone.
It's gone.
They can't even find them anymore.
Can't even find them anymore.
Is it on the dark web?
And they didn't have
Can they get them
backups.
somewhere?
We probably find it if it's out there. But they didn't have backups. Now they're, what do you do? What do they do? What happens?
So, in terms of how do they get their...
this is... So I have enough legal experience to know I don't know much, but I know that there's relationships between these two companies. There's an insurance company certainly involved, breach response.
So I think
There's
they have
complexity there.
we're still in the middle of investigating this one. So they have an opportunity to potentially go after the company that was hosting all this
That was
stuff.
hosting that.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we didn't explore that yet. This is the early stages, but I had a similar one. This is before you started working with me. It was one of our first cyber claims. An attorney called and representing a title company that was based in the Maryland area. They're a real estate title company doing all of title work for one specific bank, a local bank. All of their emails and all of their information was hosted on a secure NSA network where they thought was very secure.
Okay.
remember, they were only doing business with one bank, but they were expanding into a lot of business. So once all of their information got hacked on the NSA server, the bank called them right away and said, Frank, we know that all your stuff got hacked. We can never do business with you again.
Yeah,
business
it's
was shut down,
yeah.
catastrophic, shut down overnight.
Yeah.
That's still currently, believe it or not, still ongoing, but we were able to get them in advance of like close to like $800,000.
Okay.
But the way they were able to support that is actually interesting is because they already knew, like they already had scheduled closings for, title insurance. But then, bringing a forensic accountant in to look at all the numbers to see like, okay, how are they doing in the past?
So what you're talking about is in the insurance world, they were able to justify to the insurance company what their business loss was.
Yeah.
But in that
Correct.
situation with the company and the emails, they weren't.
So in that situation, it could very well be that those emails are gone and they are blank out of luck.
Meaning that they can't get the value out of their insurance policy because they can't tell the insurance policy they can't prove
exactly.
Okay, the dollar.
But then there's the idea of someone like you, where it's I don't know if it would actually work, but I would go to that third-party company and say, listen, have you had someone comb through your entire network, entire system, to at least try to dig up those files?
Right.
Or where are those files?
Exactly.
Someone has
And if they
Yep.
haven't, can you hire my guy to go into your system and to find those files? Because those files are worth $2 million to this company right now.
They sure are. And we've dealt with this situation. I've dealt with this situation. And very often you'll get on the phone with a third-party company and they'll say, well, you can't come in and do forensics on behalf of your client because we have all these other clients. Sure. And eventually you might bump up against legal walls where now you get on the call and you're on the phone with their lawyers and they're executing their incident response. We've been brought in this situation several times, and the responses when we get on the call and we're hearing the incident response range from very well prepared, excellent confidence to feeling like that company really is struggling to figure out how to start with incident response.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's a client that's dealing with that issue. So this third-party risk is I don't think it's going to go away.
What do people? This is happening, right? So what is, this happens to someone else. What are the steps someone should take in this instance?
So there's that recovery aspect you talked about, right? Which is you have to get your systems back online.
Yeah.
Most important.
Because you've got people working and your payroll is running.
They were out, was it 8 to 10 weeks?
8 to 10 weeks,
Business
yeah.
was shut down for 8 to 10 weeks.
Yep, and you're losing payroll. I mean, you're just...
And this is a company that was doing a few $100 million a year in sales. This is the
Sure, right. Do that math. What's that loss?
Exactly.
While that is happening, you're dealing with trying to figure out how the adversary got to your systems, because it does happen. They focus on turning everything back on, and the vulnerability is still there,
Right.
or the adversary is still in, and they get hacked again. And so those two have to run concurrently. Doing that in a safe manner, right? Building a new environment that's safe so you can run your business while we're figuring out what happened to protect you from being attacked. It starts to get, it's not like a one phone call, I'll log in and click a button. You have to build teams dedicated to all sorts of different aspects in order to make all that happen at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating
I mean,
stuff.
right now, a lot of what we see, we unfortunately can't necessarily help clients with, because what they're looking for is gotten out into cyberspace, and they're not getting that document back. And I always suggest them, like, listen, you need to have a backup. You always have to have a backup to what you're doing, because these guys are sophisticated and they can upend your lives within a matter of minutes. That's how sophisticated these people are, and that's sort of like the reality of, cybersecurity today and hacking, is that
This is how they make money. This is their job.
Yeah.
Like, we get up, we go to work, and we focus on what we do. They get up, they go to work, and this is what they focus on.
all right. Actually, they wake up, turn over, press enter, and the world ends up under.
Yeah, and one of the challenges I think we're going to face across all of the industries is they're currently getting funded. They're getting funded.
Right.
They're built, what happens when we grow. We hire more people, we
Sure.
build more process,
Sure.
we do more sales. And so this thing can grow. There's a lot of analogies throughout history that are similar to this evolving aspect in our industry right now. Yeah, and they'll give us guidelines as to what this looks like and what it's going to take to get on top of it, right? You think about England in the 800s, and they had to defend their coastline, and the Vikings could attack at any point.
Sure.
How many years was that the case until England had figured out how to deal with it? Hundreds of years.
Right.
And so they had to try different types of things. And we're in this evolution. It's beautiful because the technology is so valuable to all of humanity, but it also comes with this, yin yang.
The bad side.
Yeah,
to
the
it.
bad side to it. Yeah.
That's interesting. You think the U.S. government is? I'm sure you've probably been contacted by people like that. I've heard stories of other people like, is the U.S. government going to do anything? I've read different things over the past couple of months.
I would find it a surprising position if the U.S. government wasn't doing anything. I would phrase it to that.
Well, I know that the government has set aside, billions of dollars to start up these, cybersecurity educational centers and start, educating and training people within cybersecurity because, as you know, there's a huge deficiency of people working in the industry.
It's huge, and there's a bit of a talent gap too in terms of training that a lot of professionals, like, there's a fair consensus at this point that we need to do something different with training. But from a governmental position, do you fund protecting cybersecurity for every organization? Do you not? Like, let's use another analogy. You're in World War II. You're in England. The government you run a factory. The government comes to you and says, Germany's about to attack. You have to buy anti-aircraft guns, ammunition, staff it 24/7. And if you do get bombed, there's nothing we can do about it. But on the flip side, if the government takes responsibility, then they're running perimeter and endpoint security on all of our computer systems. It brings up privacy issues.
Right.
I read somewhere that, we'll see how, I guess one of the things I wrote down here was, what's the future with cybersecurity and insurance? Like, if insurance companies are losing their pants and losing so much money, eventually their insurance companies, everybody knows, is in the business of making money. So if they can't make money, they're not going to sell this product anymore. So I read an article the other week that potentially there's some thought out there that insurance for cyber insurance could go the route of like flood insurance, like backed by the U.S. government. Again, I have no idea what that even looks like.
As a backstop against loss.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the premiums, I'm hearing from folks in the industry that the premiums for cyber insurance are going up so high that it's almost becoming inefficient and becomes self-funding. And so companies are being put in this difficult position where they need enough of a portion of margin on their sales. Notice how I presented that. In order to be able to properly fund IT and IT security.
Right.
And if they're not making that and they can't insure, then they're engaging in basically gambling the whole risk of their company. Right? And if you reach out and try to find somebody who can properly configure your third-party cloud systems or properly audit it, they either might not be available, you might not be sure of their skill set.
Right.
And a single mistake is a black swan. That's a very difficult position, very challenging to be in. And so I think that organizations will benefit from being able to work with subject matter experts like yourselves or like me, and there's other domains in cybersecurity to help them assess what's going on. Right? And I think this will eventually, I think, land in some kind of a framework that's going to be effective. There's a lot of frameworks out there, and they're helpful.
Yeah.
And I think we'll mature those. What do you think?
We agree. I think it's in the early framework.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly
especially
why
where we come in and
you
stuff.
need the likes of us and yourself, because like we're saying, like these insurance companies have gotten hit with some serious cyber claims in the last 10, 15 years. They've had to pay out a lot of money on these things, and they're getting tougher. They're getting tougher to want to pay out, and the process is becoming more strenuous. And that's why you hire the likes of us, because this is what we do. We handle
Just
this.
a thought, and I know we were talking about this, but if there wasn't insurance for this, right, it'd probably be difficult for you to be in business. And this is a side note, but like I'm thinking, insurance needs to be there, right? Because people then need your services because they need you to help them be compliant with the policy and be compliant with their business, right? So we all need insurance to be there. So hopefully it finds some type of framework and just, I guess, tightens up. Right now, it seems like it's just open-ended. From what we've been told from cyber insurance experts, like who are working on the insurance company side and like being like an advocate and kind of like in the middle somewhere, they're like, it's so ambiguous what's going on out there. Like,
Yeah, it's coming on very fast.
Yeah.
And there's new technologies very fast.
so I hope that it stays and they figure out a way to continue to give people cyber insurance. But like you said, if the premiums are going to be too high, some companies are going to be like, well, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we offloaded the risk onto the insurance company and weren't addressing or not completely addressing the risk in a more proper way. And adversaries discovered that this was a lucrative way to basically use corporations like an ATM and draw out funding.
Crazy.
And so we've got this transfer from, organizations to what, one could potentially argue might be criminal enterprises. And they're drawing money out. And so none of us are benefiting from that. The insurance companies aren't making money. It's making it harder to be a corporation. And I think at a sociological level, we need to interdict that before it tips a balance. Yeah.
Was you read in the news, Facebook, JP Morgan Chase 8 years ago, Yahoo 2013, 2016. You've got Facebook from last year. You've got MGM casinos this year.
Yeah.
These are major billion-dollar corporations,
Right.
and from what everyone's reading online about what happened with MGM, it started with a phone call. Some guy got precious information from the person answering a telephone call that led to hell. My question is if these billion-dollar corporations can seem to be easily hacked and attacked on a cyber level, like, I guess really, why would someone in their mind decide, why would any individual think to themselves, well, why should I get this? If these big companies are going to get slammed, all the more so they're going to be able to hit me up, no problem, no issues.
Mm-hmm. So there's a number of analogies that would probably help because each situation is unique. And the one that strikes me is in World War II, they analyzed the B-17 bombers and they looked at the ones that flew back and they had bullet holes in them. But the bullet holes were all in the same spots. What they realized is they need to armor the places that aren't showing bullet holes because those are the planes that went to hell. What I'm trying to say with that is we are definitely looking at folks who are in the limelight right now, like MGM, Clorox, very public, and there's been a large number of them. Who is not in the news, and what are they doing?
Right.
And those are the kinds of questions and conversations like this that I think help us flesh out that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think MGM has a public adjuster, so they definitely need one.
Yeah, I don't envy them right now. It's really challenging.
Probably
to
must be
respond to this.
super challenging.
And they're wrestling with an ultimate fundamental issue, which is, do they pay?
Right.
Do they fund adversaries? Right. Not an easy decision. Right. Very easy to second guess, but not easy when you're sitting in the chair making a decision.
Do you think we'll see a time that hackers do they just want money or do they want to take down a corporation? Because
that's a great question. So
sorry, I didn't mean to discuss that.
No. I was taught
by
the best of the best on this. So there's 4 motivations. You can remember it like mice: money, ideology, compromise, and ego. Right. So a lot of them are money orientated, but I can tell you, I have received emails with videos of an attacker, and I play it, and it goes, "I'm the attacker. Hi, it's me. I'm the one that hacked that company. I hope you have a fantastic day." That's ego, right? Yeah. They're telling you, right? And then there's ideology. I like to wear blue shirts. They don't like people with blue shirts, so they attack me, right? And then compromise, we all get like, you did something you shouldn't have done. They call you up and they say, "I'm going to tell everybody unless you do." And these are real things that really do happen. We've dealt with IT people that have used servers as crypto miners. We've dealt with internal people wiring money out. There's all sorts of challenges there.
Sure.
At the end of the day, these things do happen, and they can happen. And I think we're all here. We see what happens afterwards,
right.
Trying to help people know what to do before.
100%. I think this was really, at least for myself, very educational.
I enjoyed this. I
learned
learned a lot.
This is good. I
Yeah.
should do this again.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming
for
and
coming,
coming
Frank.
to, come to the cave. It's a good place for us to, in the past we've had more people like centralized real estate, insurance attorneys, but I feel like cyber is something that it's a hot topic. So it just turned out that we had this planned and it worked out well.
And the truth is, when we go to Alex's fireside,
Yes.
it's an opportunity for people to gather and and one of the main topics that always comes to conversation is, the need to educate the rest of society on what's really happening here, because it's a real threat and everybody's vulnerable to it. Even I hate to say it, even with the protection, even with the two-step authorization, even with the protective softwares, these guys are.
There's different levels.
They're ambitious.
There's different levels of exposure.
These hackers are ambitious, and they'll get cute and they'll clever.
I just wanted to end it, I guess, for the live folks, but thank you very much for coming to Crestview at the Cave with the conversation with Frank Angiolelli today and Mark and myself. So look forward to, doing more of these, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and, give us some good comments if, happy to get on again and talk more, have a follow-up on this. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.